After my grandmother passed away, my mother gave the marriage engagement with the Marquis manor, which was originally mine, to her niece from her maiden family, and I could only marry the second son of Prime Minister Zhuang's family. But everyone in the whole capital city knew that the second son Zhuang has been frail and sickly since he was a child, and was already beyond saving. Seeing my panicked expression, mother laughed triumphantly. Your grandmother is dead. No one will stand up for you now. Hate me. If you're going to hate someone, hate your grandmother. She's the one who snatched you away when you were still in swaddling clothes, and used you to control me, to threaten me. The year you turned 2, I overcame all difficulties to secretly go to her courtyard to see you. But you said to me, go away, bad person. Mother laughed heartily. Right then I thought, I must live well, live longer than that old hag, and one day, you will fall into my hands. I lowered my head and pretended to cry, but the corners of my mouth curled up slightly. In my previous life, I exhausted my mind and body, running everywhere to foil my mother's schemes and striving to get back the marriage with the Marquis manor. But not 2 years later, the Marquis manor was implicated in the Crown Prince's plot for rebellion. My husband was beheaded, and I died a miserable death on the way to exile. Now, it's just a matter of marrying into the Prime Minister's family to be a widow, which is exactly what I'm hoping for. After grandmother's mourning period was over, the Yunyang Marquis manor sent someone over to exchange marriage certificates. Mother kept this matter a secret and sneakily sent the marriage certificate of her niece from her maiden family, Feng Lanting, over. She even went to the Marquis manor herself to persuade them. Told the Marchioness that I grew up by my grandmother's side since I was little, spoiled and willful, and had long been spoiled rotten. On the contrary, Feng Lanting had always been by her side, skilled in zither, chess, calligraphy, and painting, and had the demeanor of a matriarch of a prominent family. When everything was pretty much taken care of, mother finally called me to her courtyard. Seeing me in a moon-white dress, she said coldly, your grandmother's mourning period has been over for so long. Who are you dressing like this for? Actually, I've always liked plain and simple attire, but mother has never truly spent time with me, and she has always found fault with everything about me. Seeing me listening obediently, she seemed to have calmed down a bit and said lightly, although the marriage with the Yunyang Marquis manor was arranged by your grandmother when she was alive, it was just an alliance between our two families. It was never said the person couldn't be changed. I think your older cousin is a better fit for the Marquis manor than you. Rest assured, I have found another good match for you, the second son of Prime Minister Zhuang's family. Second young Master Zhuang was frail and sickly and not expected to live long, as everyone knew. As mother spoke, she sized up my expression smugly. She wanted me to be terrified, to kneel and beg for mercy, to apologize and repent with tears streaming down my face. I don't know if it was a trick of fate that mother and I ended up like this. When I was still in swaddling clothes, I was taken away by my grandmother to be raised personally by her. But in reality, it wasn't because my grandmother was particularly fond of me. She just doesn't like my mother, and wants to control her, to make her miserable. I heard that when my mother gave birth to my older brother, Ling Yu, my grandmother wanted to take him away. But because my brother was the family's legitimate eldest son, neither my grandfather nor my father dared to trifle with the legitimate eldest son, so they didn't agree. When my mother gave birth to me, my grandmother pulled the same old trick. She found a Taoist priest who said my 8 characters were compatible with hers, and that she had to keep me by her side and raise me at all times so she could live to be 100. And this time, my father and grandfather both gave in. My mother also had no choice but to agree. Just like that, I was raised by my grandmother from a young age, and was never close with my mother. After I grew up, studied, and learned to reason, I also came to understand my mother's helplessness as a daughter-in-law. I had thought that after my grandmother passed away, we, mother and daughter, could slowly reconcile. Unfortunately, things didn't go as I wished. My mother had long ago placed all her resentment on my head. How innocent the first was. From childhood to adulthood, I was just a pawn in the conflict between her and her mother-in-law. My grandmother didn't have much genuine affection for me either. It was only after we had spent a long time together that she planned a little for me, finding me a marriage that seemed excellent to outsiders. However, it was this very marriage that pushed me into an abyss of tragedy and misfortune. In my past life, after my grandmother passed away, my mother said the same thing to me. At that time, I was furious and argued with her on the basis of reason, and the two of us nearly tore all pretenses apart. Having been raised by my grandmother for many years, I was not a woman without any means, so I pulled out all the stops to save the marriage. I accidentally ran into the Marchioness of Yunyang at the temple, reminding her of her past friendship with my grandmother. I also schemed to make my cousin, Fong Lanting, embarrass herself in public. I fought hard for it in front of my father, promising that after marrying into the Marquis manor, I would definitely help his and my older brother's official careers. After a struggle on multiple fronts, I finally succeeded in marrying into the Yunyang Marquis manor. It's just a pity that my meticulous scheming ended up costing me my own life. After marrying into the Marquis manor, I was not happy. The Marquis manor had strict rules, a large population, and complicated relationships among the sisters-in-law. The Marchioness was not easy to get along with, and since I wasn't on good terms with my own family, she was always controlling me. And my husband, the dashing and gentlemanly heir Song Zijiang, seemed deeply devoted to me on the surface, but he was a cheater who always had his eye on someone else. After I became the heir's wife, Feng Lanting still couldn't get over Song Zijiang and constantly pestered him. But what disgusted me the most was that Song Zijiang had also developed feelings for her. When my mother found out, she completely disregarded my well-being, stormed over, and forced me to agree to let Feng Lanting marry into the manor as a cowwife of equal status. From then on, like the Huang and Nuiying sisters, we served one husband together. Left with no choice, I schemed to catch Song Zijiang and Feng Lanting having a secret rendezvous, thereby ruining Feng Lanting's reputation and only allowing her to become a high-ranking concubine. I schemed so hard and used any means necessary, but I wasn't the heir's wife for even 2 years before I was implicated and died. 2 years later, the crown prince was accused of treason, and the evidence was conclusive. Song Zijiang was a confidant of the crown prince, and was unsurprisingly dragged into this struggle for imperial power. After he was beheaded, I was sentenced to exile in the northwest. I will never forget, when I was all alone and helpless, my mother came to the heavenly prison and paid a huge price to get Feng Lanting out. She said Feng Lanting was just a concubine, and not considered one of the family's womenfolk. My mother just watched as I was exiled, became destitute, and died miserably in a snowstorm. Are you resentful? If you must blame someone, then blame your grandmother. Reborn into this life, I no longer have the anger and resentment from my past life. Perhaps relationships between people are all about fate. Although my mother and I are connected by blood, we have no fated bond. I don't resent her, but I won't love her either. So, when she mentioned marrying me into the Prime Minister's residence, I nodded lightly and said, I will follow all of Mother's arrangements. My mother was stunned, looking me up and down with a hesitant and suspicious gaze. After a moment, she sneered, What? You think I can't do it? Humph. I've already notified the Marquis manor. Your grandmother is gone. No one will stand up for you. I lowered my head. Marriage is a major affair, decided by the parents' order and the matchmaker's word. I will listen completely to Mother. Under my mother's astonished gaze, I slowly walked out of her courtyard. This time, let's just be strangers. In the evening, Father came home from his office. He heard that I had agreed to the marriage with the Zhuang family and was quite surprised. He thought I might cause a scene for a while, but I knew that although this matter was Mother's way of taking her anger out on me, it was also approved by Father. It was Father who wanted to get Prime Minister Zhuang's support for his official career. Second young Master Zhuang is frail and sickly, and his time is likely near. All the high-ranking and noble families in the capital city knew this. No one was willing to send their daughter over to become a widow, but Madame Zhuang looked down on a daughter-in-law of lower status, which is why this has dragged on for all these years. If I could marry into the Zhuang family, Father would surely be able to obtain many political resources, although marrying him would be equivalent to becoming a widow. Whenever I think of those days on the road to exile, in the extremely bitter and cold weather, wearing only thin clothes, I got frostbite on my feet and hands. The iron chains chafed my wrists and ankles until they were a bloody mess. The wounds would scab over and then tear open again, eventually festering and producing pus. Mother once said to me in the heavenly prison, You were the one who insisted on choosing this path. This is your fate. Now I've given this path up. Didn't Feng Lanting insist that she had to marry Song Zijiang? I'll grant her wish. When Father asked if I truly agreed, I said obediently, I'll listen to all of Father's arrangements. It seems that grandmother has taught you to be quite filial and sensible these years, Father said with a nod. I said softly, Thank you for your praise, Father, but that second young Master Zhuang is frail, and I'm afraid he won't be able to grow old with me. I'm just afraid of a miserable old age, so I hope Father can give me the dowry that grandmother left me, and as for the things from the manor, I hope Father can help out a lot. In my last life, my mother and I had a falling out, and my father also had quite a few complaints about me. So although I managed to marry into the Marquis manor with great difficulty, the dowry grandmother left me was all withheld by my mother. I wanted to fight for my rights and get the dowry back, but when I got to the entrance of my parents' courtyard, I heard my mother screaming and crying like a madwoman. "This is all what you people owe me. Back then, you were a filial son, but you couldn't protect me. This daughter now, she wasn't raised for me at all. She's just a curse. I'll destroy these things, throw them away, but I won't give them to her. Doesn't she think she's so capable? Well then, she shouldn't expect a single cent from the family." Helpless, I had no choice but to marry into the Marquis manor with nothing to my name. The manor only hastily prepared some dowry for me that looked decent on the surface, but in reality, there was nothing. After arriving at the Yunyang Marquis manor, I was short on money and suffered a lot of scorn. Without money in hand, it was inconvenient to do anything. Later, I managed to save up some capital with great difficulty and did some business, but it was all just an illusion, amounting to nothing. Now that I'm being so cooperative, I hope they can give me everything I deserve. Father nodded and said, "Since you are so sensible, Father will certainly not treat you unfairly." I curtsied gracefully. "Thank you, Father." The next day, my brother heard about the change in the marriage arrangements and came to my place, saying, "How could Mother do this? I'll go set things right immediately. Don't you worry." Over these years, Grandmother only hindered my relationship with Mother. She didn't prevent me and my brother from building our bond, so my relationship with my brother is still pretty good. In my past life, it was also thanks to my brother running around everywhere for me. I said to my brother, "It's the same no matter where I marry. Song Zijiang isn't necessarily good, and second young master Zhuang isn't necessarily bad." My brother said, "Little sister, don't be foolish. I met second young master Zhuang once before the year's end, and judging by his complexion, he might not even survive this year. How could Mother push you into a fiery pit?" I smiled and said, "A child does not speak of their mother's faults. By marrying into the Prime Minister's residence, they'll be able to receive the Prime Minister's protection. If you need anything in the future, brother, your little sister will do everything in her power to pull strings and run errands for you." My brother sighed and said, "But that's no reason to sacrifice your marriage." I grabbed my brother's sleeve. "My mind is made up. Don't argue with our parents on my behalf. Mother's heart is also full of suffering." My brother naturally knew of Mother's heartache, so he had no choice but to accept it. He was worried I would suffer, so he and my sister-in-law added a generous amount to my dowry. I gathered the assets Grandmother left me, the dowry provided by the estate, and the wedding gifts from my brother, and finally, my heart was at ease. This fortune, even when compared to the wedding of a princess from the imperial clan, was in no way inferior, and so, I lived a secluded life, only carefully managing my dowry each day. One afternoon, I ran into Feng Lanting in the garden. She blocked my way with a smirk and said smugly, "Cousin, I'm truly sorry. It's all because Aunt dotes on me too much. Of course, you can't be blamed for this. After all, I was the one who grew up by Aunt's side, not you." I was about to make a sarcastic remark about her usurping my place, when I suddenly saw the figures of several women behind a nearby willow tree. From the corner of a robe, it looked like my mother. She was eavesdropping on my conversation with Feng Lanting. So what did she want to hear? I lowered my eyes and said softly, "Cousin is right. For you to be able to show your filial piety by Mother's side, Fenger is very gratified." After speaking, I left without waiting for Feng Lanting to react. Feng Lanting snorted coldly and cursed behind me. "Little BCH, stop putting on an act." Not long after I returned, I heard that Mother had punished Feng Lanting by making her collect dew for her on a cold morning. Feng Lanting's hands were frozen red. What does this even count for? I just smiled it off, waiting only for the marriage with the Zhuang family to be settled. However, 2 days later, news suddenly came from the Yunyang Marquis manor. They didn't want Feng Lanting. They still wanted me, Ling Feng, to fulfill the marriage contract. I heard that after the clear message came from the Yunyang Marquis manor, the lights in my mother's courtyard stayed on for half the night. Feng Lanting cried until she had soaked more than a dozen handkerchiefs. Father was also at a complete loss. This way, the Ling family was put in a completely passive position. Mother had already verbally promised the marriage to the Zhuang family. If the Yunyang Marquis manor doesn't yield, the fact that they promised one daughter to 2 families will be discovered, and they'll have offended both families. Actually, this was a very dangerous matter. Mother dared to do this just to block off all my escape routes. Unfortunately, now she has instead gotten herself into a terrible mess. Actually, I was also quite surprised. In my past life, I tried my best to please the Yunyang Marchioness, but she was always indifferent towards me. I thought she didn't care about me or Feng Lanting. Now it seems, she still cherishes her friendship with Grandmother, and also places more importance on family background and my father and brother's official positions. Phong Lanting, after all, is just a cousin. If something major really happened in the future, my father and brother wouldn't necessarily put in the same effort for her as they would for me. In my past life, I was too impatient. I did many unnecessary things, which instead let the Marchioness see my desperation. This time, I just sat back and watched, and their true thoughts gradually came to the surface. 2 days later, father was out of options and had to call me over to discuss a solution together. This matter of marriage should have been handled with utmost caution. This situation now is a real dilemma. After saying this, father sighed and said to mother, if the Yunyang Marquis manor doesn't yield, then marry Lanting to the Zhuang family. Mother immediately retorted, how can we do that? Zhuang Er's health is already failing. She sure is very considerate of Phong Lanting. Father said angrily, you clearly knew his health was so poor, yet you still arranged for our daughter to marry him. What exactly are your intentions? If you weren't so biased, clinging to the past and refusing to let go, how would things have ended up like this? Seeing father scold her in front of me, mother's expression turned extremely sour. You're blaming me now. Weren't you also happy to see it happen back then? Stop pretending. Veins bulged on father's forehead as he yelled, then you tell me what to do. Watching them blame each other, I felt completely unfazed. After returning to my courtyard, I racked my brains. If I let things go on like this, I might have to walk the same old path again. This matter still has to be tackled starting with Song Zijiang. Marchioness Yunyang dotes on him dearly, so perhaps he's the only one who can break this deadlock. The next day, I had my older brother help me arrange a meeting with Song Zijiang at a tea house. Once we were in the private room of the tea house, Song Zijiang stared at me infatuatedly for a few moments and said, Sister Fong, rest assured, the marriage agreement between us was set by your grandmother and my grandmother. I will absolutely not let you down. Although his words sounded nice, and he himself appeared deeply affectionate, but in my past life, less than half a year after I married him, he got entangled with Phong Lanting. Later, when I found out, he actually said, Lanting is deeply in love with me, and doesn't even care about her status. Otherwise, let's just take her into the manor. You two are sisters, you'll surely get along well. How ridiculous. He has no ability, yet he wants to enjoy the bliss of having 2 women. Thinking of this, I pretended to be weak and sad, and said softly, Shitzi, I know all about your feelings for me, but you're also aware of my family's situation. My mother holds quite a grudge against me. My older cousin has already set her heart on you. If the marriage doesn't work out, she will surely be heartbroken, and mother will never forgive me. Hearing this, Song Zijiang's desire to protect her was stirred up even more. His heart ached for me as he said, how can your mother be so biased? You're her own flesh and blood. After all, seeing me gently wipe the tears from the corner of my eye, Song Zijiang said, Sister Fong, I must have you and no one else. If Lady Ling insists on marrying your elder sister to me, at most I'll let her be a high-ranking concubine. Humph, just as I thought. I covered my face with a handkerchief. My cousin has a fiery temper. If she's made a concubine, there's no telling how she'll raise a deadly fuss, and then my life would become even more difficult. Song Zijiang's heart ached beyond measure, and he said softly, Sister Fong, don't cry. You tell me, what on earth should we do? Seeing that the groundwork was sufficiently laid, I said softly, Shitzi, you know I'm not the type of woman who gets jealous and can't tolerate others. Why don't you marry my cousin first, and then welcome me into the family with the rights of an equal wife? We sisters can be like a Huang and Nuiying, serving you together without distinction between senior and junior. A flash of delight crossed Song Zijiang's face. Immediately after, he forcibly suppressed this expression. This wouldn't be right, would it? I sneered inwardly, only saying, this is all what I'm willing to do. My cousin also admires the Shizi's grace just as much. Under my persuasion, Song Zijiang nodded and said, Sister Fong, you are so magnanimous and generous. Mother-in-law will naturally come to know of it in the future. He's already started calling her mother-in-law. I smiled slightly and said, then thank you, young lord, for your understanding. Before leaving, Song Zijiang wanted to ask me for a keepsake. I gently refused, saying, our hearts are connected. There is no need for more words. A few days after I met with Song Zijiang, the Marquis manor's tune changed. They agreed to marry Phong Lanting. I found my father and said, the matter with the Zhuang family must be handled discreetly, otherwise, complications will surely arise. Only if I also get married off quickly after Phong Lanting is married, can we avoid further complications. At that time, Song Zijiang will only think that my mother is biased and used me to pave the way for my father's career. He will resent Feng Lanting and also develop a rift with my parents. But by then I will already be part of the Zhuang family. And none of it will have anything to do with me. Just like that, Feng Lanting's marriage was finally set in stone. She was insufferably happy, her face glowing with radiance every day. Stealing my marriage made her incredibly smug. Although my mother gave me the dowry I deserved, she gave most of her good things to Feng Lanting. Even for tailoring clothes and making jewelry, Feng Lanting always came first. I didn't fight or compete. I remained cautious and low-key. Anyway, in another 2 years, it will all be an illusory dream. But even with me backing down again and again, my mother still didn't feel it was enough to vent her anger. Once, she intentionally said in front of me, "This pair of jade bracelets is my dowry." My mother personally put them on my hands before I got married, symbolizing twin lotus flowers on one stem. For a loving husband and wife. You have your grandmother's dowry anyway, so you don't need this. Lanting, come, Auntie will put it on for you. Feng Lanting giggled coquettishly and nestled up to my mother, glancing sideways at me as she said, "Auntie, it's not very nice for me to take them all, is it? Why don't we give one to Sister Feng too?" Mother sneered, "Your sister doesn't care for it at all." After speaking, she smiled and pulled Feng Lanting into an embrace. Watching their warm and harmonious moment, I wouldn't speak coldly like in my past life, let alone throw a huge tantrum. I still have to embroider my wedding veil. I'll head back first. As I walked out of Mother's courtyard, my personal maid Xianxia spoke up for me indignantly. "The madam is so biased." I motioned for her to keep her voice down. "It doesn't matter. After I get married, we probably won't see each other again anyway." And just like that, the day for the Marquis manor to pick up the bride soon arrived. During the bridal procession, Song Zijiang threw several seductive glances my way. I just pretended not to see. The marriage arrangement with the Zhuang family was proceeding very smoothly in private, perhaps because Zhuang II's health was truly poor. The Zhuang family was also very anxious for me to marry into their family. By the time Song Zijiang realized what was happening, I was already a Zhuang family wife. The Marquis manor of Yunyang had to suffer in silence, but they didn't dare to offend Prime Minister Zhuang. So at most they could only go to the Ling family to demand an explanation. Since my parents took benefits from both families, they should be the ones to bear the consequences after this matter is exposed. After that, I stopped caring about the Ling family's affairs, and focused single-mindedly on settling into my life with the Zhuang family. But what I didn't expect was that Zhuang Er's body was really so useless. He fell into a coma the day I married over, and then, not lasting 2 days, he let go and passed away. I became the youngest widow of the current dynasty. I didn't even get a clear look at what my husband looked like. Madame Zhuang was slightly apologetic towards me. It turned out young Master Zhuang had been dying for a long time, his life sustained only by ginseng. They were in such a hurry for me to marry over because they hoped I would bring good luck to ward off Zhuang Er's illness. If it worked, it would be a joyous occasion. If it really didn't work, at least he would have a wife. In the future, I could adopt a son, and his line would be considered to have an heir, with incense offerings made for him in the future. The Zhuang family's actions were undoubtedly selfish, but for me, it was the best possible situation. Because of my mother-in-law's guilt, my life at the Zhuang residence was not bad. As a widow, I lived a secluded life, only occasionally meeting with the stewards to manage the fields and shops for my dowry. Zhuang Er had 2 older brothers, both of whom were already married. Eldest brother Zhuang was an official elsewhere, and eldest sister-in-law had gone with him. Only second brother and second sister-in-law were at home. This second sister-in-law was from the Lu clan of Fanyang, and was extremely proud and arrogant. After I married in, she tested me several times, seeming a bit worried that I would compete with her for the power to manage the household, but I had absolutely no intention of doing so. Every day I dutifully holed up in the courtyard, occasionally copying Buddhist scriptures. At my father's request, my mother came to see me once. Seeing that the furnishings in my courtyard were elegant and luxurious, the food and daily necessities were all of the highest quality, and my life was leisurely and content, she was quite uncomfortable. I reckon my mother would only be happy if I washed my face with tears every day and lived a difficult life. Fortunately, I didn't have to pretend anymore. After a cup of tea, my mother-in-law made an excuse to leave, letting us have some private talk. My mother looked around and sneered. "You're living quite well, aren't you? Do you have any idea how miserably you've messed up Lan Ting's life? It's all your fault. The heir apparent detests Lan Ting so much. Were you planning to harm her from the very beginning?" I had vaguely heard some things. After I got married, Song Zijiang found out he had been deceived and, in his anger, had a huge fight with Feng Lanting. No matter how Feng Lanting explained or tried to sling mud at me, Song Zijiang didn't believe any of it. He firmly believed that my marriage to Zhuang Er was definitely not of my own free will, so he blamed everything on my mother's favoritism and stubbornness, and argued incessantly with Feng Lanting every day. Faced with my mother's questioning and accusations, I said calmly, I did do it on purpose. So what? My mother was stunned. Ling Feng. I chuckled. Feng Lanting is just a cousin who's a cuckoo occupying the magpie's nest. She's enjoying everything the Ling family has, and even tries to snatch my marriage. Shouldn't I detest her? Screwing her over is letting her off easy. 2 years later, you'll know what regret is. Mother gritted her teeth and said angrily, fine, so you're finally showing your true colors. Do you think I can't do anything to you just because you're married? Ling Feng, you dare to be rebellious and unfilial. Believe it or not, I'll go to the Fengtian prefecture and accuse you, accusing me of being unfilial. That you can indeed do, but to think you can still control me and make me submit, well, it won't be that easy. Go accuse me wherever you want. Do you think I care? I let out a light laugh and said, if father still wants to count on my father-in-law, if my elder brother still wants to be an official at court, then by all means, mother, go and make your accusation. I just hope you remember, I am no longer a member of the Ling family. Although grandmother can't stand up for me, my mother-in-law will. Even though my husband has passed away, I will forever be his officially wedded wife. I'm a daughter married out, like spilt water, so I won't trouble you to worry about me, mother, or should I say, you hope that the heir and I can have another good chat. This string of words made my mother's chest heave with anger. Fine, you ungrateful wretch. I knew it. I knew you were this kind of person. I sneered and said, what kind of person am I? Am I as shameless, greedy, and without any sense of decency as you people? For a woman like you, so unreasonable and pestering, it's no wonder grandmother didn't like you back then. The closer people are, the better they know each other's sore spots. I was going to hit her where it hurt the most. Mother's eyes were splitting with rage. She wished she could take me down with her, but I knew, she was just a paper tiger now and couldn't hurt me in the slightest anymore. This time, I intentionally had a complete fallout with my mother. Since they've already sold me, they shouldn't talk about the love between parent and child. Having lived 2 lives, I've seen through it all. If I were still meek and submissive, clinging to my maiden family, father wouldn't be polite with me about any request he had. If our relationship is bad, things will actually be better for me. Just like that, half a year passed by quickly. One day, my mother-in-law told me that second sister-in-law was pregnant again, but this pregnancy wasn't going well. She was feeling unwell every other day. She hoped I could take over some of the household affairs to help share her burden, but second sister-in-law soon heard about this, and fearing that mother-in-law would place me in an important role, she forced herself to keep managing the household affairs every day. Xianxia said, why must second mistress go to such lengths? It's not like we're interested in that little bit of power. My wet nurse, Nanny Li, said, second mistress is young and competitive. Of course she's unwilling to let go. Although this matter was a dispute between sisters-in-law, and a one-sided one started by second mistress at that, I saw with precision that this was my golden opportunity. So, after letting things settle for a few days, I ran to tell my mother-in-law. I have a villa in the suburbs of the capital. It's very secluded and quiet. I was thinking, I'd like to go stay there for a while, to chant scriptures for my late husband and cultivate my spirit. After saying that, I thoughtfully added, this way, second sister-in-law can also relax a bit. My mother-in-law knew I was leaving to avoid the second mistress, and she was both gratified and pained, repeatedly saying, there's no need for this. I said gently, the Zhuang family's lineage is the top priority. I'll eat well and live well at the villa. You don't have to worry. My mother-in-law was moved and said, you are so graceful, considerate, and kind. It's just that my son was not fortunate enough. Then she gave me many precious pieces of jewelry and fabrics, and also carefully instructed the house servants to see me off. And just like that, after all my painstaking efforts, I could finally live my own little life in peace. This was the ultimate goal I had been planning for so long. Now that I've been married once, my maiden family can't control me. As long as I can remain a chaste widow for Zhuang Er, the Zhuang family will surely protect me for life. On the second day of my stay at the villa, I slept until the sun was high in the sky. I don't have to scheme against my mother and Feng Lanting, nor do I need to pay my respects to my mother-in-law, and I certainly don't have to feign civility with the second mistress of the Zhuang family. From now on, I just need to live my own little life well. To achieve this wish, having money is the first step. The second is to ensure my own safety. When I left the Zhuang family, my mother-in-law gave me 5 guards, and including my dowry, that's 10 people in total. This is still not enough, so I wrote a letter to my elder brother, asking him to help me pick out 5 or 6 more honest and decent guards. I rewarded this group of people heavily, and at the same time, used the power and influence of both the Zhuang and Ling families to intimidate them. Only then would they be completely obedient. The days that followed were the most carefree and leisurely days of my entire life. I ate whatever I wanted, and drank whatever I wanted. The grain on the manor was excellent, and the vegetables and fruits were exceptionally fresh. Not only that, but there was often game that was rarely seen in the capital. On this day, Nanny Lee said the tenant farmers had hunted a deer and sent over some of the best venison. This is all highly nutritious stuff. Nanny Lee was an excellent cook. To let me have a real feast, she made a big pot of venison stewed with angelica and chestnuts. After the meat was stewed, its aroma spread for miles. It made all the children on the manor cry with craving. Just smelling the aroma, I could eat a large bowl of green japonica rice. In the evening, we ate dinner and admired the moon with Xianxia and Nanny Lee. There were comfortable and relaxed smiles on all our faces. These days, with money, leisure, and no one to answer to, it simply couldn't be more carefree. Just then, a shower started outside. Before long, the rain grew heavier and heavier. After I finished eating, Xianxia said there were 5 or 6 men calling at the door. They said they had gone hunting in the mountains, and the rain was too heavy when they came down, so they wanted to ask for lodging for a night. I said, are they all decent people? If they are ordinary people, then of course it's fine, but if they look suspicious, don't let them in, Xianxia said, looking at this group's attire and horses. They must be either rich or noble, not like some rough men of the Jianghu. Hearing her say that, I was relieved. Xianxia grew up in a noble house, so she is quite worldly wise. People all say, it's better to marry a maid from a great house than a daughter from a humble family. That's exactly the reason why. Besides, we have so many guards in our courtyard, so there's no need to worry too much. There are plenty of empty rooms in the back courtyard. Go and arrange things for them. I'll just consider it building some goodwill. Xianxia nodded and went. A moment later, she came back and said happily, Miss, that young master tipped me a gold ingot. I raised my eyebrows in surprise. So generous with his money. Looking at it under the light, it was indeed a gold ingot. Seeing Xianxia beaming with joy, I joked, look at you, so easily satisfied. Put it away safely, Xianxia said with a grin. Miss, I also brought them a bowl of deer meat stewed with angelica and chestnuts. It's perfect for warding off the cold at night. Once you get a benefit, you really act differently. I didn't think much of it, and after joking a bit with Nanny Lee, I went to sleep. The next morning, Xianxia came to report to me that the people from last night were already up. They were very grateful and would leave after breakfast. I nodded. That was for the best. After all, I am a widow, so it's best not to meet. But before these people left, my mother and Feng Lanting suddenly showed up. It's been over a month since we last saw each other after falling out at the Zhuang family's place. Coming this time, they must have had ill intentions. Everyone in the estate is my person. No one welcomes this aunt and niece pair. Mammy Lee gave my mother a faint curtsy, then asked in a voice everyone could hear, Miss, is tea still needed? I held back a laugh. The old lady isn't holding back now either. No need. My tea is all expensive Westlake Longjing. I can't bear to let them drink it. A flash of annoyance crossed mother's face. Feng Lanting said angrily, how dare you treat aunt like this? I didn't even look at her, just asked, is there something you need? If not, then please leave. Feng Lanting became even more furious. Ling Feng, you are truly rude. Aunt and I came all this way to see you. Is this how you treat guests? I said, do you have business or not? I don't have time to entertain you. I have to go tend to my orchids in a bit. Those flowers are the most delicate. Feng Lanting was exasperated. Ling Feng, mother stopped her and said to me with a sneer, I didn't want to bother with you, but you're a widow now. No matter how much the Zhuang family looks down on you, you shouldn't run around shaming yourself. If you cause some sort of scandal, you'll be disgracing the Ling family's name. Feng Lanting said proudly. Exactly. To be honest, I didn't understand a single word, but then, amid the accusations and insults from mother and Feng Lanting, I understood. It turns out that Song Zijiang has often not been coming home recently. When Feng Lanting asked him where he was going, Song Zijiang ignored her. Not only did the two have a big fight, Song Zijiang even slapped Feng Lanting. So, this aunt and niece pair both believe that Song Zijiang's strange behavior is related to me moving out of the Zhuang family home. Don't think I don't know you still want to string along the air, but let me tell you, Stop your wishful thinking. You're a widow now. The Yunyang Marquis manor will absolutely not have you. Her being so furious and frustrated can only mean that her life isn't going well. If Feng Lanting is unhappy, then I'm happy. Seeing that I wasn't speaking and still had a half smile on my face, Mother finally couldn't hold back and said, "Swear to me you won't contact the heir again. Otherwise, I'll tell your mother-in-law about your scandals, and the Zhuang family will surely not have a place for you." For them to say something like this, they must be at their wits' end. I stared fixedly at Mother and said seriously, "The marriage with the Marquis manor was arranged for me by grandmother. My older cousin wanted it, so you all snatched it away. For the sake of father's career, you married me off to Zhuang II, but less than 2 days into the marriage, I became a widow. When the second mistress of the Zhuang family got pregnant, I moved to the village estate to live. In order to avoid fighting for the power of managing the household, I have endured and endured. Is it that you'll only be satisfied when I'm dead?" Mother clenched her fists tightly and said, "Don't think he'll believe you just because you say that." I cut her off sharply, saying, "When I was young, you were the one who sent me to grandmother's room with your own hands. You were unwilling to sacrifice my older brother, so you sacrificed me, weren't you? Now that it's come to this, what's the point of taking all this resentment out on me? What did I do wrong? If I did anything wrong, it was being born from your womb. Let me tell you, even a clay doll has a temper. If you're trying to drive me to my death, then I absolutely won't let you live in peace. The worst that can happen is we all die together. Even if this case is brought before the 10 kings of hell, my conscience is clear." My fierce tirade stunned both Feng Lanting and Mother. I took a deep breath. I had intended to just scare them, but I couldn't help but get truly angry. My self-control is still not up to par. I smiled self-mockingly. "Nanny Lee, see our guests out." After saying that, I no longer wanted to see the faces of this aunt and niece pair, and walked straight towards the rear courtyard. But just as I stepped out of the hall, I saw a young man. He was dressed in black, and looked to be in his early 20s. He had a narrow waist and broad back, with long eyebrows that slanted up to his temples. Judging by his features, he was simply indescribably noble. From the day I was born to this day, he was the most handsome man I had ever seen. This person, I had seen him in my past life as well. He was the very source of my miserable death with no burial place, the current crown prince, Yuan Jia. So it turns out the person who stayed the night yesterday was him. Judging by Yuan Jia's expression, he had probably been listening at the door for a while. The argument in the hall was so intense, it's no wonder others would come to watch the spectacle. Seeing my unpleasant expression, he cleared his throat and said, "I intended to come and thank the master of this house, but I didn't realize Madam had guests. It was truly unfortunate that Your Highness the Crown Prince had to witness such a family scandal." I gave a slight bow, neither servile nor overbearing. "Don't mention it. It was nothing." Yuan Jia nodded lightly and said, "We have bothered you for long enough. We shall take our leave now." Seeing him turn around elegantly, I suddenly called out, "Wait." Yuan Jia turned his head back. "Madam, is there anything else?" I opened my mouth and said, "Could you please wait until my mother and cousin have left before you go?" If they saw an unrelated man entering and leaving the manor, they would twist the facts even more. Yuan Jia realized this as well, and nodded. "All right." In the backyard, I brewed a pot of good tea for Yuan Jia and his attendant. In a rustic place like this, it's rare to see such a handsome man. He deserved it. Yuan Jia did not disappoint me. After drinking a cup of tea, he said with admiration, "Madam, your food is good, and your tea is good too, though far from the bustling world. This place has a unique worldly charm." I was very touched and said softly, "Thank you." Just as he said, although in the eyes of outsiders, I had already strayed from my path and hit rock bottom, but in reality, I quite enjoy this kind of life. And just like that, Yuan Jia and I chatted casually for a bit. He was well-read, his conversation elegant and refined, graceful but not flirtatious. This crown prince had an excellent reputation at court. Most people said he was benevolent, filial, and humble, a rare and true gentleman. It's just a pity that such a person would be accused of treason 2 years later. After this, there will be no day to turn things around. Seeing me slightly dazed, Yuan Jia suddenly said, "Your mother, why would she treat you like this?" If this question had come from someone else, I would have thought they just wanted to strike up a conversation with me. But with Yuan Jia asking this, I instantly understood. It is said that he is not favored by Her Majesty the Empress. In the past, Song Zijiang had told me about these royal secrets. The current Her Majesty the Empress had a difficult birth with Yuan Jia, and had a brush with death. For this reason, she has never been very fond of this eldest son. The one Her Majesty the Empress dotes on the most is the second prince, Yuan Tao. Thinking about it now, everything in my past life had its signs. As the crown prince, Yuan Jia had a reputation for being virtuous and capable both inside and outside the court, and he was also a very steady person, so why would he need to risk danger and plot a rebellion? Those witchcraft and sorcery items found in the Eastern Palace, and those witnesses who spoke with such certainty, were very likely all the handiwork of Her Majesty the Empress. The most important point is, after Yuan Jia's downfall, the second prince, Yuan Tao, was made the crown prince. The two of us are both detested by our own biological mothers. For a moment, I felt a sense of camaraderie with him, like we were in the same boat. I thought for a moment, and still answered Yuan Jia's question seriously. I briefly explained my family matters. Although I can't understand my mother's attitude towards me, I have already come to terms with it. This is something I only slowly let go of after experiencing a lifetime of life and death. Otherwise, who could accept that their own mother doesn't love them? Yuan Jia said thoughtfully, "My lady, you are truly enlightened." Seeing it was getting late, he cupped his hands at me. "I will come again to seek your guidance in the future, madam. If I had the chance, I wouldn't dare." After saying that, he left on horseback with his servant. Before he left, I wanted to remind him about what was going to happen in a year, but he and I are complete strangers. Saying something like that now would not only fail to convince him, but would also likely bring trouble upon myself. Nanny Li, seeing the unspoken thoughts in my eyes, said with a smile, "In all my years, this old servant has never seen such a handsome young master. I wonder which family he's from." I laughed along and said a few words, then put the matter aside. Not many days after Mother and Feng Lanting left, Song Zijiang actually showed up at my door. He was just in casual clothes, with a single attendant, and came asking to see me just like that. If I were to see him, wouldn't that be as good as confirming Feng Lanting's false accusations? So I didn't even open the door, and only had Xianxia pass him a message. The past is the past. There is no need to bring it up again. Song Zijiang refused to leave the doorway, lingering for a long time before he finally left. I sighed. Is this what they mean by a widow's doorstep is a hotbed of gossip? So annoying. The good mood I had from regaining my freedom has been ruined by these people, being turned away at the door by me. Song Zijiang still hadn't given up. He would come knocking on the door every few days and stuff letters had written in the doorway. I didn't even open them. I burned them all directly. If he keeps pestering me like this, I don't mind letting the guards and servants give him a good beating. Just like that. After a few days, Song Zijiang finally stopped coming. I heard it was His Highness the Crown Prince who found some job for him and sent him to Chuzhou. Yuan Jia is truly my lifesaver. At the same time, the farmstead next to our manor is said to have changed owners. I thought to myself, this area on the outskirts of the capital, with a hot spring, even if it's not worth its weight in gold, it's not something an ordinary person could afford. It must be a prominent household as well. Nanny Li said, this servant saw people cleaning and tidying up next door the day before yesterday, and it seems the owner has arrived today. I thought for a moment, did the kitchen make braised wild boar today? Take a few bowls over, and add some fresh fruits and vegetables. No matter who they are, we need to build a good relationship. Nanny Li nodded. That makes sense. This old servant will go do it right away. But when she came back, she brought a piece of news. The new neighbor was actually Yuan Jia. This old servant even recognized those young men from last time. They are all very handsome, and their postures are ramrod straight. I heard that gentleman's surname is Wen, and he is the son of a wealthy merchant in the capital. What merchant family could have such airs and discipline? Could they be imperial merchants? Of course, I wouldn't expose the crown prince's identity. Even less would I flatter myself into thinking he bought the manor here for my sake. As the crown prince, he should have a lot of things to attend to. Buying this place, he probably wants to come here often to hunt, so as to avoid being in a sorry state like last time. In the evening, Yuan Jia personally came over to thank me. Your ladyship's chef is truly amazing. The food is much better than what I have at home. Is Nanny Li even better than the imperial chefs? That must be an exaggeration. I smiled and said, in this rustic place, we're just eating for the novelty of it. How can it compare to the master chefs in the capital? Seeing him flattering me so earnestly, I had no choice but to invite him to have dinner with us. He didn't stand on ceremony with me. Since we had braised wild boar meat during the day, we ate something lighter in the evening. Nanny Li used the crucian carp freshly caught by the village children to cook a milky white soup base, and then we had hot pot with various wild vegetables, mushrooms, and thinly sliced chicken. Fearing that Yuan Jia would find the flavor too bland, I had Nanny give him a bowl of mildly spicy dipping sauce. Yuanjia ate a full 2 large bowls of rice. I was dumbfounded watching him. I heard he ate quite a lot at noon too. The dignified crown prince can eat this much. Fearing Yuanjia would get indigestion, I quickly sent Xianxia to brew some rock sugar and hawthorn water. It would be trouble if he got sick from eating. After freeloading for a whole day at my place, Yuanjia was clearly in a good mood. He said, "After chatting with your ladyship last time, I've come to see things more clearly since I went home." I knew he was referring to his relationship with Her Majesty the Empress. I sighed and said, "In this life, the coming and going of fate are all predestined. Everyone understands this principle. It's just that the person in question is my own mother, making it hard to let go." After exchanging a few words, Mamili came to report to me. According to Ya's mother, Stewardly has been secretly collecting an extra 20% rent from them. If this goes on, they'll be forced to sell their children. The moment I heard that, my anger flared up with a whoosh. This estate is the largest and most valuable one my grandmother left me. That's why I had long planned to make this place my own haven. When I first married into the Zhuang family, I had told the steward that for these 2 years, we would only collect 40% rent. That's 10 to 20% lower than other estates. But I never expected this Stewardly to be secretly exploiting the people. Isn't he just bullying me because I'm a young widow? I let out a cold laugh and said, he really won't shed a tear until he sees his own coffin. Mamili was also very angry, and she sighed, "Don't get worked up. Now that we know, we can't let him off. Otherwise, your reputation will be ruined by these vermin. Why don't you tell the young master and have him step in, or go back to Mistress Shuang and ask her to help you solve it? At the end of the day, I'm a widow living in seclusion, so it's indeed not appropriate for me to confront this person directly, but if I ask my brother for help, my mother will inevitably find out. If she comes and spouts a bunch of nonsense again, I might not be able to stop myself from grabbing a knife and hacking at someone. Asking the Zhuang family for help is certainly an option, but the second mistress will surely laugh at my plight and may not put her full effort into it." As I was pondering, Yuanjia said, "What's so difficult about this? Leave it to me to handle." I quickly said, "You can't. This is my business." Nanny Li also said, "That's right. That Foreman Li is no ordinary person. I heard his brother-in-law is the steward at the second prince's residence. Although a steward is a servant, being connected to a prince's residence naturally makes common folk fearful." Yuanjia chuckled lightly. Even the second prince himself shouldn't do such a wicked thing, let alone just a steward. If only for these 2 good meals today, I must repay the favor. After he finished speaking, he whispered a few words to the attendant by his side. A sharp glint flashed in the attendant's eyes, and he left with nimble movements. Seeing my hesitant expression, Yuanjia said, "Don't worry, I have my ways to deal with him without him knowing it was me." Of course, he had that kind of ability, but I still felt uneasy in my heart. The men under Yuanjia were indeed very efficient. The next day, that arrogant foreman Li came limping over to apologize. Not only did he obediently give up his position as foreman, but he also handed over the money he had amassed by abusing his power over the years. I really don't know how Yuanjia managed to make him so submissive. After he left, Nanny Li was dumbfounded. Young Master Wen looks so gentle and refined, but the people under him are so capable. I felt like I owed him a favor, so after some thought, I said, "Save a roasted leg of lamb for young Master Wen at noon, and also send over some roasted squab and roasted bird eggs. I have nothing to repay you with, so I can only send some food." After eating these dishes, Yuanjia came over to thank me as usual. I said, "I still have to thank you for your righteous help." Yuanjia chuckled. "After receiving all these good things from you, madam, I have to do something in return." I never thought that the current crown prince would be a person who loves good food. Thinking that he didn't have much time left, I said generously, "I am extremely honored that you like my chef, young master. From now on, whatever we cook, we will prepare a portion for you." I could still afford to cover his meals for a year. Yuanjia's face lit up with joy, and he said, "You are truly magnanimous, madam." We exchanged a few pleasantries, and then Yuanjia suddenly said, "After I returned to the capital city last time, I also heard about your situation, madam. It truly hasn't been easy for you. To be in the prime of your youth, yet so at ease here in the mountains and fields, is truly rare." I sighed. If this were in the past, being turned from a young maiden into a widow, far from the splendors of the capital city, to live on this estate in the suburbs, I would also have felt as if I'd been exiled. But only after truly experiencing the days of exile can one understand how precious this current life is. I said wistfully, "Once you've come to terms with it, it's fine." Yuanjia gave a sad smile. Your mother treats you like that, yet you can still smile. Thinking of his situation, I couldn't help but want to console him a little. Young master, you know of Duke Zhuang of Jing from the spring and autumn period, right? His mother had a difficult birth with him, so she loathed him and only doted on his younger brother, Gongshu Duan. After Duke Zhuang of Jing ascended the throne, his mother and Gongshu Duan plotted a rebellion. After suppressing the rebellion, Duke Zhuang of Jing killed his younger brother and said to his mother, before I could finish, Yuanjia softly continued, we will not meet again until we reach the Yellow Springs. That's right, I sighed. We won't meet until we're in the underworld. To say something like that, he must have been furious. His own mother wanted his life, wanted to team up with his own brother to kill him. Even a hegemon like Duke Zhuang of Jing couldn't get over it. But a few years later, Duke Zhuang of Jing came to terms with it, took his minister's advice, dug a tunnel underground, and reconciled with his mother as if nothing had happened. I looked straight into Yuanjia's eyes and said slowly, what I'm trying to say is, although our mothers gave us life, they don't have the right to take it away. As long as you hold great power in the future, even if your mother doesn't love you, she will pretend to love you. These words could only be a hint and no more. Yuanjia was silent for a long time, the light in his eyes flickering. In the following days, Yuanjia always found time to come to the manor to stay for a few days. I also fulfilled my promise. As long as I had a bite to eat, he would have his share. Actually, I knew in my heart that as a young widow, I shouldn't be meeting with an unrelated man, but not many people came and went in the manor, and I was a bit lonely. Every time Yuanjia came to visit, the manor would become much livelier, let alone me. Even Nanny Li and Xinyue were exceptionally happy, so I turned a blind eye and just let it be. For the sake of my reputation, Yuanjia was always very low-key whenever he came to see me. Fortunately, he lived right next door, so it wasn't easy for anyone to find out. One day, the two of us were sitting together eating fried fish when my father suddenly paid a visit. Over the years, I wasn't close with my mother, and my relationship with my father wasn't much better. For him to come over so suddenly, he must have had something to say. I told Yuanjia to continue eating and went to the main hall by myself to greet my dad. My father exchanged a few pleasantries with me before he began to lecture me with an air of authority. No matter what, you're a member of the Zhuang family. What's this all about? Living on the estate for so long, you should go back and serve your mother-in-law. I didn't want to argue with him, so I just said, I will go back for the new year. My father nodded, and then stated the purpose of his visit. It turned out that with the end of the year approaching, many officials were busy networking and maneuvering, hoping to secure a good position for the coming year. My father's superior was about to be promoted, and he wanted to move up a rank as well. However, several people had their eyes on this position, and he didn't think his chances were very good, so he wanted to ask my father-in-law, Prime Minister Zhuang, for help, just as I expected. Only at a time like this would he remember he had a daughter like me. I gave him a cold look and said flatly, if there's a chance, I'll mention it to my mother-in-law. My father hurriedly said, go back and speak to her properly. If I, your father, get promoted, your life in the Zhuang family will be easier too. After saying that, he left in a hurry. From beginning to end, he didn't even ask once if I was doing well or if I needed anything. This is my father. Back in the backyard, I lost my appetite. Yuanjia frowned and said, this kind of thing, you'd better not agree to it so easily. Yeah, after sending me to the Zhuang family to be a widow, they still want me to ask for an official position for them. The nerve of them. I said, I never intended to help at all. I'm not about to run around for his official career. With what he and my mother have done, it's already good of me not to kick them while they're down. Yuanjia said gently, as long as you understand. I lowered my eyes. I can't make my own life miserable for these people. After a moment of silence, I looked up and found Yuanjia staring at me blankly. There seemed to be pity in his eyes. Unloved by my father and mother, I am indeed a pitiful little thing. Of course, he wasn't much better off either. The day he would be framed was getting closer and closer. Over the past 6 months, we had deep conversations despite our short acquaintance, and had long since become friends. I don't want such a good person like him to meet such a tragic end. Thinking of this, I suddenly said, actually, I know a little about the art of face reading. May I help you read your fortune for the coming year? Yuanjia smiled. All right, go ahead and read it. I pretended to carefully examine his face, and then gently touched his hand. Although Yuanjia was very calm, the tips of his ears were bright red. He had never married, and there were no concubines in the Eastern Palace. The rumors outside say he's too picky and choosy, but in reality, Her Majesty the Empress is irresponsible. She doesn't want to find him a powerful family-in-law. I sighed to myself, pointing at the lines on his palm and said, "This line foretells that you will face a great calamity next year, a matter of life and death." Although I appeared calm on the surface, my voice held a hidden killing intent. I believe Xianxia could tell. He froze for a moment, then looked up at me. I continued, "You need to be careful of those around you. Some people who are close to you might harm you. If you fail to discover it in time, I'm afraid you will be doomed beyond redemption." Xianxia slowly pulled his hand back. "What do you mean?" I said. "Exactly what it sounds like. Judging from your facial features, you are the eldest legitimate son of the family, and are highly regarded by your father, but your mother favors your other brothers more. In order for someone else to inherit the family fortune, it's highly likely she will plant people around you to frame you for disloyalty and injustice. If I were you, I would secretly investigate everyone in the household after returning, to avoid being caught off guard and plotted against." Saying this much was already going too far. Xianxia took a deep breath, his eyes growing more puzzled and gloomy. All these years, how could he not know that Her Majesty the Empress did not love him? But as a son, he couldn't bring himself to be on guard against his mother. I think Her Majesty the Empress must have been planning for a long time to plant those things in his palace, which is why she succeeded in one strike. If Xianxia had reacted in time, with his intelligence and methods, he might have been able to get through this crisis safely. Just like that, Xianxia left, completely disheartened. He was gone for 2 months this time. He didn't reappear until the end of the year. During this time, I was constantly worried about him. As long as he's alright, seeing his pale face and the menacing aura around him, I didn't dare say much, and just sat quietly by his side, keeping him company. After a long time, Xianxia raised his head and said softly, "When did you find out about my identity?" "That time you told the story of Duke Zhuang of Xing. Were you hinting at me?" I nodded. "I once had a chance encounter with your highness in the capital city before. It's just that your highness doesn't remember me anymore." Xianxia said, "Those things, how did you know about them?" I knew he would ask, so I could only say, "I just had a strange dream," and was speaking from the feelings it inspired. Fortunately, he didn't press the matter, only saying softly, "Regardless, thank you." After speaking, he left like a ghost. A few days later, news from the capital city finally arrived. I heard that the second prince died, and Her Majesty the Empress also fell ill. Now, it's the imperial consort who is in charge of the palace. It seems Xianxia discovered everything and made the first move. That's great. This is what I wanted to remind him of. Even if my own mother wants me dead, it doesn't mean I have to stretch out my neck for the slaughter. Now that he's safe, I finally breathed a sigh of relief in secret. Just like that, I finally rushed back to the Zhuang family before the year's end. I gave my mother-in-law the Diamond Sutra I copied at the estate, and also brought back a lot of local specialties. My mother-in-law knew I had been wronged and was very gentle with me. Second sister-in-law is about to give birth, but she's still unwilling to hand over the household management. My mother-in-law didn't want to make things difficult for her, so she plans to step in herself when the time comes. I also mentioned that I would return to the estate after the new year, as it would be better for everyone. But my mother-in-law tactfully asked me if I would be willing to adopt a child, so my days wouldn't be so boring. Actually, adopting a child is a sure thing. I just hadn't thought it would be so soon. I thought for a moment, and said, "Mother, would you allow your daughter-in-law some time to consider?" Mother-in-law said, "Of course you can. Take your time to think about it. It's just that with a child, one has something to look forward to. Otherwise, you're so young, and the days ahead are still long. Now is not the best time to adopt a child. After all, I'm still young, but at most, I can't put it off for more than 10 years. I'll have to make a decision eventually. After all, I alone cannot carry on the family line and continue the incense for Zhuang heir." From what my mother-in-law was saying, the best choice would naturally be to pick a boy from the Zhuang family's collateral branches. If there were no suitable ones, it would also be fine to get a child without parents from the orphanage. Actually, I'm more inclined towards the latter. After all, the children from the Zhuang family's collateral branches also have parents, and there will inevitably be messy entanglements in the future. After returning to the estate, Nanny Li advised me, "An adopted child will never truly be close to you. You might as well consider our Ling family's collateral branches, or the eldest master's child. The collateral branches of the Ling family don't have many children, and my older brother only has one son and one daughter. How could I have the face to go ask my brother and sister-in-law for a child? The Feng family on my mother's side, on the other hand, is flourishing with descendants, but I would never want someone from the Feng family. After hesitating again, I was still at a loss for what to do. I let out a long sigh and joked, "How about I give birth to one myself and pretend it's adopted? That would be best." This was just a joke, but who knew that Mama would take it seriously? The old lady spared no effort, secretly checking out all the human traffickers and middlemen in the capital. In the end, she bought a male servant for me. She said he bore some resemblance to Xianxia. When the person was brought before me, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I had long forgotten what Xianxia even looked like. "Mama, wherever you got this person from, quickly send him back. If anyone found out, never mind the Zhuang family not tolerating me. The Ling family wouldn't just stand by and do nothing either. These peaceful days would be gone for good." Mama heard the reason in my words and could only send the man away dejectedly. But that very night, Xianxia, whom I hadn't seen in a long time, suddenly arrived. He looked a bit grim and didn't say much, thinking that he was a man of important affairs and must have a lot on his mind. I laid out a lavish dinner for him as usual, and had Xianxia open a jar of fine-aged wine. Xianxia drank a lot in silence, and still hadn't had his fill even when the moon was high in the sky. He used to be very discreet and never stayed long. This time, I don't know what got into him. He just kept dawdling and wouldn't leave. After hesitating for a while, I finally couldn't stand it anymore. "It seems you're in high spirits today, but I'm really tired, so I won't be able to accompany you. I always go to bed early and wake up early, and rarely stay up late." But Xianxia stared at me intently and said, "I have an important matter to discuss with you. My lady, please dismiss your attendants." Seeing his solemn expression, I couldn't help but take it seriously, so I had Xianxia and the others leave. But as soon as everyone in the room had left, Xianxia suddenly grabbed my wrist. Before I could finish, he pulled me into his arms, his hot breath on my face. "If you want to have a child, why not come to me?" I was instantly stunned. How did he find out about this? But even if I really wanted to borrow a seed, there's no way I'd borrow the crown prince's dragon seed. Xianxia took my silence as compliance, grabbed my waist, and his lips came crashing down in an instant. I just felt that his whole body was burning hot, and having drunk some wine earlier, I instantly became muddled. The two of us kissed for a while, both of us ending up panting. Next, his hand started to wander, placing it on my chest and trying to reach inside. The cool touch brought me a moment of clarity. I raised my hand and slapped him, not too lightly and not too heavily. Xianxia froze for a moment, but he didn't stop. Instead, he grabbed my hand and kissed his way down my wrist. Just as my whole body went limp and sore, he forcefully swept me up by the waist and said firmly in my ear, "Tonight, I'm not leaving." Maybe the moonlight was too enchanting, or maybe this wine was too strong. I actually didn't refuse Xianxia. When we woke up the next day, we looked at each other and both blushed a little. After all, it was the first time for both of us. According to the teachings we'd both received, we actually couldn't accept a fleeting affair, but by a twist of fate, after all the twists and turns, it somehow ended up like this. I was conflicted for a moment, then I came to terms with it. What was I afraid of? I'm a widow. After all, if I really get pregnant, I'll just give birth and raise the child myself. Anyway, there's still that dead bastard Xianxia to be the convenient father. Xianxia hadn't shown up for so long, and he never revealed his identity before, so I figured he wasn't serious. I might as well enjoy this relationship and be able to pull away in time later. Just like that, our relationship changed from friends to lovers. Xianxia, having just tasted the forbidden fruit, couldn't get enough, and would come to the manor to find me from time to time. During the day, we'd talk about everything under the sun, drinking and chatting happily. At night, we'd share a bed and sleep in each other's arms. We played in the hot springs and made love out in the open in the mountains. In this life, it feels as if I've seen it all. Although I've become much more composed, I've long since lost my passion for life. The days of my affair with Xianxia revitalized me. We grew closer and closer. Xianxia and wet Nursely were very worried, always nagging, "You must be extremely careful. If this gets out, young Master Wen can't afford to offend the Zhuang and Ling families." I laughed it off every time. Xianxia has now cleared all obstacles and is, in the imperial court, second only to one and above tens of thousands. Even if we were discovered, he would absolutely not be the one in trouble. I, on the other hand, would be in some trouble. 2 months later, envoys from the western regions came to offer tribute. Xianxia was in charge of receiving them. The envoys dawdled a lot, and even paraded the princess from the western regions through the streets daily. They stayed for nearly a month before leaving. Xianxia was too swamped to get away, so he wrote me a letter every 2 days to soothe our mutual longing. After the envoys left, Xianxia stayed over at my place for a full 2 days and 2 nights. The two of us didn't even bother to eat. Every time I think about those 2 days, my face flushes and my heart races. I knew Xianxia was infatuated with me, but I didn't know how long it would last. Seizing the moment for pleasure was what mattered. Later I asked him. That princess from the western regions was a peerless beauty. If he had been tempted. After all, rumors were flying around back then, with many people saying the princess from the western regions had taken a liking to the crown prince and wanted to stay in the celestial dynasty to be the crown princess. But Xianxia stroked his chin and said, people from the western regions have high noses and deep-set eyes. They look a bit strange. You haven't seen that Princess Tata. She even has a hooked nose. Me, really? Everyone says she's a great beauty, Xianxia said thoughtfully. I don't think so. Maybe it's a case of to each their own. I only like your type. After he finished speaking, he kissed me affectionately for a long time. Then, he said gently, Feng'er, in my family, there are no more obstacles. My father Emperor hopes I'll marry soon. Are you willing to be my wife? I was stunned. Marry you? Xianxia blushed slightly and said, yes, be my crown princess. I said in astonishment, but I'm the Zhuang family's daughter-in-law. Xianxia said speechlessly, you don't even know if Zhuang air is round or flat. I said, but I'm still his wife. After speaking, I leaned gently into Xianxia's arms and said softly, if you really like me, just come and see me often. I don't want to hold you back. I'm a widow. After all, not a good match for him. Xianxia's face darkened. This was the prelude to his anger. He said in a muffled voice, don't think I don't know. You just don't want to give up this carefree life you have now. So you're just playing with me, right? I lowered my eyes and said, I'm not playing with you, but I really didn't want to give up my current life. Xianxia pulled me into his arms angrily. You can't be so irresponsible. After saying that, he leaned down and bit my lips. My mouth hurt, and I quickly pushed him away. Are you a dog or something? Xianxia held me tightly in dissatisfaction and said, I know the first half of your life has been full of misfortune. Your mother, let's not even mention her. Your dad, is also unworthy of being a father. You and I are kindred spirits in misery. I will love you as I love myself. After speaking, he also promised, I've taken care of everything at home. From now on, I will only have you, and you will only have me, the two of us, just like an ordinary couple, with you and me and you, living our own little life. How about it? Xianxia looked at me expectantly, as if wanting to get my approval. Seeing that I didn't speak, he held me even tighter. I will definitely not fail you, and you don't fail me either. Okay. His words deeply moved me. Just as he said, his mother doesn't love him. My mother doesn't love me. The two of us can best understand each other's pain, and will love each other all the more. Really, should I try one more time? Because I was hesitating. Xianxia started to use pestering tactics. He would come over whenever he had time, even more frequently than the woodcutter who delivers firewood to my estate. Xianxia and Nanny Li didn't know Xianxia's identity, only that he genuinely wanted to marry me. Both of them were happy for me, but at the same time, they also worried that we would be given a hard time by the Zhuang family and the Ling family. One afternoon, Nanny Li said that lately, there were always people snooping around outside the estate. The estate guards caught one person, and after half a day of questioning, they couldn't get anything out of him. But the next day, this person escaped from the woodshed. Nanny Li was worried that these people had ulterior motives, but I found it a little odd. Xianxia left several of his most capable personal guards at the estate next door. Those guys are imperial guards, who see and hear everything. How could they possibly let random people sneak up to my doorstep? I thought about it for a moment, and said, it's probably nothing serious. When Xianxia came over in the evening, I brought it up with him. He also said, don't worry about it. I'll have someone look into it later. Since he said so, I felt reassured. That night, he was coaxing and persuading me as usual. My dear Feng'er, my sweetheart, just say yes to me, please. I'm already this old and still a bachelor. How miserable is that? The red candle shed tears. The gauze bed curtain shook non-stop. He redoubled his efforts to please me, going all night without a break. He wore me out so much I was like a fish on shore, only able to lie there gasping for air. Let me rest a bit. And just like that, the next day came. The sun was already high in the sky, and I still hadn't gotten up. But right outside Xianxia's and my door, a group of uninvited guests suddenly arrived. What woke me up was Feng Lanting's voice. Madame Zhuang, this shameful thing Ling Feng did is her fault alone. My aunt taught her carefully ever since she was a child. She's the one who refused to be taught. This voice was Feng Lanting's. Next was Madame Zhuang, my mother-in-law's voice. If we come over so rashly like this, and it turns out to be nothing, wouldn't we be hurting Fenger's feelings? Further back was my mother, my dear-in-law. The evidence for this matter is conclusive. She and that adulterer have been seeing each other for a long time. I haven't raised this daughter of mine well. I apologize to you here and now. Today, I'll take her back home, find her a place for quiet cultivation, and not let her continue to disgrace herself out here. Mixed in were the voices of Xingyue and Nanny Li trying to stop them, but unfortunately, it seemed they were both held back. Another man was also speaking. This might be a misunderstanding. I'm familiar with this person too. It's Song Zijiang. Because it was so noisy, Yuan Jia woke up as well. He raised his eyebrows and was just about to speak when I suddenly covered his mouth. Don't talk. Let's go through the window. Yuan Jia shrugged and pointed at the window. There were already figures standing guard there. Good. Very good. It seems someone has already laid an inescapable trap for me. This time, I'm going to be caught cheating in bed. I shot Yuan Jia a fierce glare. I'll settle the score with you later. Yuan Jia looked all innocent, but his hands were still restless, groping around my waist. I huffily got out of bed and got dressed. If I don't go out soon, that group of people outside will break down the door. Seeing me open the door, Feng Lanting said with a vicious look on her face, "Sister, what are you so busy with in your room, taking so long to open the door? Where's that wild man? Tell him to come out." After saying that, she tried to push her way inside. All my old and new hatred surged up in me, and I viciously slapped her aside. Feng Lanting covered her face and said angrily, You dare to hit me?" I shouted. "You ran to my front door and stuck your face out. Weren't you just asking me to hit you?" Then, looking only at my mother, I said word by word, "Do you have to take it this far? Even if it means destroying the Ling family's reputation, you still want to destroy me, is that it? My father absolutely does not know about this. Even if I do nothing, the official circles will still take into account his marital ties to the Zhuang family. By doing this, mother is dead set on destroying me. How on earth have I wronged her?" A crazed light flashed in my mother's eyes as she said through gritted teeth, "You are my daughter, so I have to discipline you. Letting you continue down the wrong path would be what truly disregards the Ling family's reputation." She was beyond saving. Only mother-in-law looked at me in disbelief, saying, "Fenger, you didn't really do something to wrong the Zhuang family, did you? I like you so much. How could you do this to me?" Seeing me besieged by everyone, Feng Lanting rushed over and said excitedly, "Let us go in and see. Who exactly is the adulterer? You and he haven't just been hooking up for a day or two, have you? You might even have a child. Is he a woodcutter, or a fisherman? It couldn't be a peasant farmer, could it? Ha ha ha." She tugged on Song Zijiang and said, "Husband, look, this is the real Ling Feng. What's so good about an unchaste woman like her? Hurry up and see her for who she truly is." Song Zijiang looked at me tentatively and said with hesitation, "No, Fenger wouldn't do that." I stood at the doorway, looked around, and carefully watched everyone's expression. Everyone was treating me like a joke. Alright, then I'll let them have a look. We'll see who the real joke is in the end. I took half a step back, making way. If you want to know, just go in and see for yourselves. Among these people, Song Zijiang was originally and was the most familiar with Yuan Jia, my mother-in-law, as a first-rank imperial mandate madam, had also attended palace banquets and had seen the crown prince. As for my mother and Feng Lanting, they didn't know him. The first one to rush into the room was Feng Lanting. After she saw Yuan Jia, her voice trembled with excitement. "Aunt, Madame Zhuang, look, I told you she was hiding a man." My mom pulled a crazy-like smile and said, "You damn girl, ha ha ha, I've caught you this time, haven't I? You think you can get away from me? Let me tell you, you'll never escape from the palm of my hand in this lifetime." But Madame Zhuang and Song Zijiang were stunned. Both of them stared with wide eyes, breaking out in a cold sweat. Feng Lanting forcefully tugged on Song Zijiang's sleeve. "It's this pretty boy, he is Ling Feng's adulterer." The pretty boy Yuan Jia had also finished putting on his clothes. It's just that the bed was a mess, and anyone with eyes could tell what our relationship was. "Shut up, you stupid woman." Song Zijiang slapped Feng Lanting across the face. It was a stark contrast to the palm print I had just made. Feng Lanting stood there, dumbfounded. Madame Zhuang also finally understood, and pulling my mother, she walked out without looking back. My mother wasn't ready to give up, yelling, "My dear-in-law, why are you leaving? We've caught them cheating in bed. I must uphold justice for the Zhuang family." Madame Zhuang had never in her life met such a clueless person, and said speechlessly, "I saw nothing. and I heard nothing. I'm going back, and don't you come looking for me again. After saying that, she got on the carriage. Over on his side, Song Zijiang also dragged Feng Lanting away. Only my mother was still standing there. Although she was stubborn, she wasn't a fool, and naturally understood that there was something wrong with Yuanjia's identity. Her face was extremely ugly, staring at me as if she wanted to eat me alive. I leaned leisurely against the doorway and said softly, "Mother, if you still want to cause a scene, by all means, bring father back with you. They'll play along to the very end." Yuanjia walked to my side and gently took my hand. He shot my mother a cold glance and said, "Still not getting lost?" Mother still wanted to cause a ruckus, but a group of guards emerged from the surroundings and shoved her directly back into the carriage. She was still shouting as she left, "Ling Feng, you're unvirtuous and disrespectful to your parents. You deserve to die. Just you wait. The troublemakers are all gone. Now it's my turn to settle the score." I pinned Yuanjia against the wall and said coldly, "The straightforward way didn't work, so you're playing dirty." Without his permission, this group of people wouldn't even be able to get within 100 zhang of this estate, and also that person who was sneakily asking around before. Needless to say, they were definitely sent by my mother and Feng Lanting. "Yuanjia, you're really something else." Seeing I was angry, Yuanjia hurriedly hugged me and swore up and down, "It's because I was at my wit's end. Have some pity on me. The capital's suburbs are so far away, but I want to see you every single day. Besides, you've actually already agreed in your heart, haven't you?" He kissed my cheeks with a playful grin. "Fanger, you probably didn't realize it yourself, but you need an external push to make a decision," I said with a cold face. "Yes, I've made my decision. I'm not marrying you." Yuanjia's face completely fell. "Fanger, I was wrong. Please just forgive me this once. I was really just desperate. Don't worry about this matter. No one will dare to speak of it. I wanted to vent your anger for you. Don't you understand?" I stayed angry for a full 2 days before I reluctantly forgave this fox. This man is really so insidious. Extra. After I returned from my place, the Zhuang family reacted quickly. They announced to the public that I was a widow when I married in, and that I had not yet consummated the marriage with Zhuang heir. Over the past year, I was filial to my mother-in-law, kind to my sister-in-law, with a gentle temperament and virtuous character. Madame Zhuang was too fond of me. She planned to adopt me as her goddaughter, then find me a good match, so that I could have a grand wedding from the Zhuang family in the future, as expected of Prime Minister Zhuang. What a beautifully executed favor. This way, even Yuanjia would owe him a favor. For a while, my fame soared, and I became a role model for the young women in the capital. Just like that, I very smoothly became the crown princess and moved into the Eastern Palace. Not long after the wedding, I found out I was pregnant. Calculating the dates, it was obvious I had conceived at the Zhuang estate. Yuanjia was overjoyed, constantly muttering, "Thank goodness we took the risk and made this move. Otherwise what would have happened to this child?" I speechlessly rolled my eyes. What's there to worry about? At worst, the child would just take the surname Zhuang. Hearing me say that, Yuanjia got furious and fiercely punished me for a whole night. After I became the crown princess, Feng Lanting came to the Eastern Palace every day to beg for my forgiveness. She said tearfully that if I didn't forgive her, Song Zijiang would definitely divorce her. "Please, cousin, don't mind the past anymore. I was blinded by greed before. It was all my insatiable greed. It was Aunt. It's all Aunt's fault. If she hadn't incited me, how would I have dared to treat you like that?" I said faintly, "You are my older cousin. No matter how disgraceful, the Yinyang Marquis manor will not divorce you. At most, they'd let her have a natural death. Of course, you've always liked to snatch my things. Now you come pestering me every day. Don't tell me you think you can snatch His Highness the Crown Prince away too." Feng Lanting was so scared her face turned pale. "How would I dare? Younger sister, why must you say that?" I could see she really did have that intention. Yuanjia, who happened to be passing by, heard this and was so shocked he immediately ordered, "Feng Lanting and dogs, for the rest of their lives, are not to set foot in the Eastern Palace." Seeing that she was despised by me and the Crown Prince, the Yinyang Marquis manor also looked down on her more and more. To show his loyalty, Song Zijiang confined her to her courtyard, not allowing her to go out and see people. The Marchioness then married a 5th-rank official's daughter to Song Zijiang as a noble concubine, completely sidelining Feng Lanting. Because of my relationship, my father became the prospective father-in-law of the emperor overnight. He came to the Eastern Palace to pay his respects, and copying Song Zijiang's methods, he said to me, "I know you don't like your mother. As your father, I have already locked her up. From now on, Auntie Zhao will be in charge of all household matters. You must put in a few good words for me in front of the crown prince, and strive to give birth to a legitimate son soon. Ha ha ha. I thought I would never reach the second rank in this lifetime, but now it seems your father's official career is quite prosperous. I looked at him with a cold smile. Keep dreaming. I had told Yuan Jia long ago that I would never let him have any real power in this lifetime. How can someone who can abandon even his own daughter have any affection for the common people? 5 years later, His Majesty the Emperor passed away. I became the Empress. In the palace, I saw the Empress Dowager. She was confined in Cunning Palace for many years, and was already getting very old. After seeing me, she cried with me for a long time, saying she had long regretted what she did in the past. She asked me to help persuade Yuan Jia, hoping to rekindle the Urson affection of the past. After I went back, I relayed these words. Yuan Jia held me in his arms, sighed, and said, "You were right about everything. Now that we hold all the power, even if his mother doesn't love him, she will pretend to him. It's just a pity, it's all too late." 10 years later, my mother wanted to see me. Before she died, I thought about it, and still went. She no longer had her former arrogance, like an old crone on the verge of death. When you were a child, I loved you so much. I know, you weren't actually wrong, but I just can't get over it. Can't get over it. In this life, it's Mom who has wronged you. If there is a next life, Before she could finish, she breathed her last with her eyes open. After returning to the palace, Yuan Jia held me tightly. "It's all in the past now." I nodded, nestling in his arms. "It's so good to have you. As long as he is here, all suffering will eventually end." Yuan Jia chuckled softly and said in a gentle voice, "I should be the one saying that. Feng, it's so good to have you. This body is like driftwood." At last seeing the light on the other shore, looking back at the desolate places, the wind and rain have all become scenery.